Alex, I've spent 30 years convincing wood to stay flat and steel to stay round, but electricity is the only thing in this shop that feels like actual witchcraft. You can't see it, you can't smell it unless you've already messed up, and it's got a mean streak a mile wide.
Is this about the lawnmower again? Because I remember you trying to jumpstart it with a car battery and nearly launching the deck into the neighbor's yard.
We don't talk about the great deck launch, but it proves my point. People treat automotive electrical systems like they're some mysterious black box, but really it's just plumbing for invisible water. If you can understand how a leaky pipe works, you can find a parasitic drain in a Toyota.
Invisible water. That's actually a surprisingly helpful way to put it. But for those of us who weren't born with a soldering iron in our hands, where do we actually start? Because every time I look under a hood, it looks like a bowl of multicolored spaghetti.
It starts with the heart, Alex. The battery. Everything, and I mean everything, comes back to that lead acid box. If the heart is weak, the brain starts hallucinating. I've seen guys spend 3 weeks trying to diagnose a possessed transmission that was shifting like a mule on roller skates, only to find out the battery was just sitting at 12.1 volts instead of 12.6.
12.1 versus 12.6. That sounds like a tiny difference. Does the car really care that much?
The car cares more than your mother-in-law cares about your choice of curtains. See, a battery isn't just a bucket of power, it's a stabilizer. Think of it like a shock absorber for the electrical system. When the engine is running, the alternator is screaming, throwing out pulses of juice. The battery soaks those up like a sponge. When the sponge gets old or dry, those pulses hit your sensors directly. Suddenly, your dashboard looks like a Christmas tree, and your engine starts hiccuping.
Okay, so the battery is the foundation. But I've heard you say heat is worse for them than cold, which feels backwards. My car always dies in January, not July.
That's the great battery lie. Summer is when the executioner shows up. Winter is just when the body falls over. High heat under the hood literally cooks the liquid inside the battery. It evaporates, the plates inside warp, and the chemistry gets all gummed up. Then, when the first frost hits, the oil in your engine gets thick like molasses, the battery has to work twice as hard to turn the crank, and snap, it gives up the ghost because it was already half dead from August.
So the battery is essentially a drama queen that's been nursing a summer grudge.
Precisely. And if you want to know if yours is about to quit on you, you need to understand voltage drop. This is the secret handshake of the pros. Most beginners just check if they have 12 volts at the battery. That's like checking if there's water in a pipe while the tap is closed. It doesn't tell you if the pipe is clogged.
Okay, walk me through that. If I'm looking at a motor that won't turn over, how does voltage drop help me find the clog?
Let's say you have a copper cable running from your battery to your starter. If that cable is corroded inside, where you can't see it, it creates resistance. Resistance is like a kinking a garden hose. You put your multimeter on both ends of that cable while you're trying to crank the engine. If the meter shows a high voltage, it means that cable is stealing power that should be going to the starter.
So the meter is measuring the difference between the 2 points?
Exactly. If the cable is healthy, the drop should be almost zero. If the cable is junk, the meter will show you exactly how much juice is getting lost in the clog. It's the most honest test in the shop. It doesn't care about your feelings or what the manual says. It just shows you where the energy is turning into heat instead of motion.
You mentioned good schematics earlier. Whenever I see those diagrams, they look like a map of the London Underground drawn by a toddler. How do you actually use those without getting a headache?
You have to treat it like a choose-your-own-adventure book. You don't look at the whole map. You find the component that's failing, say a headlight, and you trace the river back to the source. You're looking for the checkpoints, the fuse, the relay, the switch.
And the ground, right? You're always yelling about grounds.
Because 90% of the ghosts in a car live in the grounds. In a car, the entire metal frame is part of the circuit. It's the return path. If you have a rusty bolt where a wire attaches to the frame, the electricity can't get back home. It starts looking for other ways back. That's how you end up with a car where the blinkers flash when you step on the brake or the radio hums when you turn on the wipers. The electricity is literally taking a detour through other components because the main road is washed out.
I remember you once told me that a bad ground is like an unrequited love. The energy is there. It just has nowhere to go.
That's a bit poetic for a guy covered in gear oil, but yeah, it's pretty spot on. It just wanders around causing trouble.
So what about the tools? I see people using these little light-up screwdrivers, test lights, and then I see these $500 scanners. Is the old school stuff dead?
A test light is great for finding out if a wire is hot, but it's a blunt instrument. It's like checking if a stove is on by putting your hand on the burner. You get an answer, but not a very detailed one. On a modern car, some of these computer modules, the ECMs, are incredibly sensitive. If you poke the wrong wire with a cheap test light, you can actually send too much current into the computer and fry a chip that costs more than my first truck.
Wait, so you can actually kill the car's brain just by trying to test it?
Oh, I've seen it happen. If you're working on anything made in the last 20 years, you want a high impedance multimeter. It's a fancy way of saying the tool won't interfere with the circuit it's measuring. And for the diagnostic side, a basic OBD2 scanner is your best friend. It's like having a translator who speaks car. It won't tell you exactly what's broken, but it'll tell you which neighborhood the fire started in.
Neighborhood of the fire. I like that. So if it gives me a code for a lean condition, it's not necessarily a bad sensor?
Exactly. It might be a vacuum leak or a clogged fuel filter or, wait for it, a bad ground wire giving the sensor a false reading. That's why we follow the data. You don't just fire the parts cannon at the car.
The parts cannon. I've definitely been guilty of that. Maybe it's the spark plugs, maybe it's the coil, maybe it's the whole engine.
That's an expensive way to spend a Saturday. Diagnostics is about being a detective, not a gambler. You eliminate the easy stuff first. Is the battery healthy? Are the terminals clean? Is the ground solid? If you don't do those three things, you're just throwing money into a hole in the driveway.
What's that little needle for? You look like you're about to give the truck an acupuncture treatment.
This is a T-pin. This is how you back probe a connector. One of the biggest mistakes people make is shoving their multimeter probes into the front of a plastic plug. You'll stretch out the metal terminals inside, and then you've created a new problem, a loose connection, while trying to find the old one. You slide this pin along the wire into the back of the plug to touch the metal without damaging the smile of the connector.
You have to be gentle with it. It's almost surgical.
It is. You have to respect the pins. If you manhandle a wiring harness, it'll haunt you for the rest of the time you own that vehicle. I once spent 4 hours fixing a mysterious intermittent stall that was caused by someone, I won't say who, but it was someone with my last name, shoving a paperclip into a sensor plug 10 years ago.
The past always comes back to bite you in the workshop.
At the end of the day, electrical work is just about patience. It's about not assuming anything. If you treat the system as a series of simple loops instead of one giant monster, it starts to make sense. You check the source, you check the path, and you check the return.
So, the big takeaway for me, don't blame the computer until you've checked the battery and the bolts holding the wires to the frame.
You got it. Most miracles in auto repair are just someone finally cleaning a rusty ground connection. It's not as sexy as a high-tech sensor swap, but it's what keeps the wheels turning.
Well, I'm still not letting you near my lawnmower with those jumper cables.
Fair enough. But hey, if the headlights on your car start dimming when you turn the radio up, you know who to call. Just bring coffee and maybe some extra fuses.
Deal.